be more focused and to sort of more concretely say who we are, what we're in. I can move on with a budget without this and come up with strategic objectives, but I'm also thinking that as we, I think it would be good for us in the November timeframe to have an administrative retreat. I think by then the administrative team will have worked with me and will have sort of an outline of the strategic objectives that we want to kind of be hitting as we go forward into FY16 and beyond. And I think those will work well with either. As I start putting together said budget document, it would be nice up front to have that Monomoy statement on who we are.
Sharon.
We were going to have a school committee retreat or study session or whatever you call it. And maybe we could try to work on that at that point and schedule it before our schedules get to be unmanageable.
Good idea. We could blend in that evening, spending enough time to adopt that. Chatting with Scott, and I'm sure we all agree with this also, besides the mission statement, and I visited a 50-year reunion of the college that I graduated from, and they had a document. I was very, very impressed, and it's not that college, all colleges have done this, that they identified their core values in 3 words. Not 3 sentences or not 3 paragraphs, but 3 words that were very, very powerful to me. Now, I don't have those words in my head right now. It's in the magazine at home, and it wouldn't have to be.
You only had to remember 3 words.
I'm keeping it general. And at some point, I think whether or not we
Do you remember any of the words?
No. Thank you, Brian. Point of order. I guess what I'm just suggesting, along with agreeing at some point with a new or a revised, polished mission statement, it would be terrific along the way that our faculty, our parents, our leader kids such as Samantha, Kyler, et al., would come together and somehow crystallize 4 words, 3 words, that at some point over the years, people coming out of this Monomoy region would say, what my school and what the teachers reinforced in their way, in their classrooms, were these 3 things. So, and I don't mean like honesty. They were, and I can somehow go back home and find the 3 as samples to say, gee, they do speak to excellence and a challenge. So with that, somehow, not necessarily for the fiscal 16, but it would be wise of us to look into an experience where we create for our district 3 core values, and with a lot of input from everybody. That should be 2 or 3 years from now. Find those things.
I raised this initially with Terry because I received a copy from one of the selectmen, an example of a budget book that they'd love to see us, that another district had provided. They'd love to see a budget book that looks like this. And I told Terry, I said, as I opened the budget book, and page 1 had list of the school committee members, and just after that was the mission statement. I'm like, okay, so which statement do we go with? How to tie in mission statement with a building update. This one's oddly interesting, but one of the things that we have to address from a safety standpoint here at Monomoy Regional High School is we have some, there are some glass panes that are a little too clean and a little too clear, and we've had a couple people who have unknowingly walked into them.
Teachers or students?
Staff members too, including our assistant project manager and one of the ladies in our central office who came over here one day also hit the glass. So there was a discussion last week that we should get some sort of film and put the film up on the glass. And we looked into the price of the film. We thought it might be about $25. It turns out it's a lot more than $25. So I think maybe some duct tape strips for now is the way to go. But I had a conversation with Bill Burkhead about there's possibility in this, and to loop this back to mission. We have a chance, rather than just erecting film, to message who we are, assuming we know which mission we are. But it can, and I think it's that opportunity to go and say, this is, if it's character, resiliency, grit, integrity, or whatever, that maybe those words are on that piece of glass rather than a semi.
How many pieces of glass is it? We need 3 words for 3 pieces of glass.
It's front. It's the front and back. It's the front and back entryways that have a lot of glazing, but there's some panels in between the doors that if you don't notice, that you might think it was an open door, so it's something we need to address and fix, and I think it gives us an opportunity to do it tastefully. There's actually, if you go to our technology classroom, there's some wording going down the glazing that kind of talks about what would be happening in that space. Talks about creativity, and you can imagine that you capture some of the things that those 3 words. Out front, there's 3 pieces of glass we need to put something on. Is it those 3 words that embody who we are? So, I'll go and loop mission with a building project. And then the last piece that we wanted to bring up on the superintendent's report to loop all the way back to district determined measures is just an update and provide an MCAS report. I know spoke briefly with Alan Pollock yesterday. I know they're in the process of developing a story about Monomoy and our MCAS, and I want to just share with the committee this, what the numbers are for us as a district.
So, I'm a little bit slow on this, but back to the glass. Could we put some stickers or something on it so that nobody else bumps into it?
Yeah, I think for the time being, we've got Halloween coming up, so we could get some of those gel like bats and things. We could decorate it up. For now, but at some point we need to.
A lot of holidays.
Yeah.
We have got Thanksgiving, we're swapping out for turkey.
As long as it's something, I don't care what it is.
So,
I just don't want to be worried tonight about safety.
$9 million bill.
we need them off out. Make sure everyone's getting the glass.
All set, Dr. Blanchard?
Trying to get over the bad. So the 3 primary purposes of MCAS is up here. It's to inform and improve curriculum and instruction. We're constantly looking at our results, and we're looking at our curriculum and instruction, and we're finding ways to create better alignment to the standards. The second primary purpose is to evaluate our student, school, and district according to those standards, and also the MCAS performance standards. And the third is to determine the eligibility for a high school diploma, otherwise known as competency determination. So the requirement for a competency determination is that students must earn either a scale score of at least 240 on both the grade 10 English language arts and mathematics tests, or earn a scale score between 220 and 238 on these tests, and fulfill the requirements of an educational proficiency plan. And an educational proficiency plan, or EPP, is developed in the area that the student has fallen below proficient So if it's, for instance, if it's mathematics, the student would be given a plan to take a number of courses and pass a series of assessments in those courses in order to be determined eligible for high school diploma. In addition, students also must earn a scale score of at least 220 on one of the high school MCAS science tests. In this case, it is biology. So this first slide is the percent of proficient or advanced for grade 10, and it gives the MRS is the Monomoy data for grade 10. PG is a peer group of 8 surrounding schools from Bourne to Nauset and their average, and then the Massachusetts state average. So as you can see, we're right where our peer groups are in English language arts. In mathematics, we're slightly ahead, and in science, or biology rather, we're significantly ahead of our peer group average, as well as above average of the state average on all three. I haven't changed color. Sorry. This is following the grade 10 cohort over time. So we see the same cohort when they were in grade 4, and then in grade 7, and then just this past year in 2014 in grade 10. So there is an improvement over time, a growth over time. You see a little bit of a blip in the middle area, but then there's recovery in grade 10. This is the same cohort that we followed over those years from grade 4, 7, and 10. And this slide is proficient or advanced on the MCAS. So again, you see if you draw a line up from the blue for the English language arts, there's a nice progression. And in the mathematics, there's a little bit of a dip and then a recovery in grade 10. This slide shows the cohorts that we are looking at. I'm sorry, this Chromebook is presenting this a little bit different way, so I have to make sure I know what I'm looking at. You see Monomoy is the third from the right, and we are in the top half of our cohorts across the board. If you were to draw a line at the top of each one of our bars, you would find that we are in the top half of that grouping. This is percent advanced or proficient, and once again, we are in the top half of that grouping as well. So this slide shows the same comparison between the Monomoy Regional Schools, the surrounding peers, and the Massachusetts state average. And the numbers in red, as it says on the slide, indicate the areas for focused investigation and improvement. We're, as they say, drilling down in the data to see whether that is a grade level issue or a cohort issue. And earlier, the superintendent talked about the growth percentiles, and we're looking at those as well. So this is grade 3 against our surrounding schools, and because Nauset Regional School does not include the K to 5, I chose Brewster to compare as the larger of the two elementary schools in Brewster and Orleans. Larger just by a little bit, it's about the size of Chatham Elementary School. So you see that our math scores in this particular showing is among the lowest of our peers for grade 3. This is grade 4, same grouping, and we are in the top half of this grouping for grade 4 compared to our peers. And grade 5, you see that the science scores come in. Science is tested in grade 5, 8, and then again in the high school. Grade 5, our English language arts is on the top half, and our math is below the halfway mark in the grouping with our peers. Grade 6, things start to head south. We are second to last in both the English language arts and the math against our peers. And in grade 7, the math is about the middle of the pack, and the English language arts is in the lower half. And here's grade 8. The science, technology, engineering is around the mid-range, but the English language arts and the math are much lower than our peers, and certainly none of this is what we want or who we want to be. So we've got some work. This graphic is the growth percentile for the same schools, and Monomoy, as you see, the top bar is all grades combined, and then it breaks out by grade level. There is no student growth percentile for grade 3 because it's the first year of data collection.
And again, this is where you can, if we kind of loop back to this concept of district determined measures, there are grade levels up there that that we're seeing tremendous growth. There's so that grade 10, there's very high growth, and if you were to see that year after year, you might say, okay, that's a factor of the the curriculum that's in place, the pedagogy that's in place. One of the things that we've looked at in teasing this out is the same types of graphs that you saw on advanced versus proficient, and we've looked at that data for our peer districts to look at what grade levels are there potential exemplars that we want to go look at. Okay, what's behind high growth in a particular school district at some grade level. So it's how you want to use the data to look for best practice.
I think that's a typo in grade 4 for the Massachusetts average.
No, it's
It's not?
they're supposed to all be 50%, but for whatever reason, grade
Oh, really?
4 it kicked out 49.
Interesting. The range of growth is, I think, 40 to 59, and anything over 60 is what you want, what the reports say. So we're about the mid-range against our neighboring schools here when you look at the growth in this view. And again, the NOSIT average is used with the Brewster data for the elementary grades. So the action steps that we're taking, we One of our goals is to increase time for educators to collaborate on student learning. This is a research-based best practice for high-performing schools, and we have implemented into our schedule regular early release every other Wednesday in order to ensure that teachers are able to get together and look at student work. We began that in September. We will continue it hopefully for a long time to come. The specific implementation of those groups, we are just kind of getting started, but the PLC, or the Professional Learning Community cycle, focuses on curriculum, and then the next cycle you might focus on the data analysis once you've administered your common assessments, and then you might have another cycle about student learning issues or child studies in the elementary school. So that's the cycle of expectations for those groups. And then unfortunately it got cut off, but the measure of success for those professional learning communities and the results would be a 20 percentage point increase in proficient or higher for grades 3 to 8 by the year 2016, and the same in the advanced category for grade 10. We also continue to create performance tasks that build critical thinking and problem-solving skills. We've put a lot of time and energy into this practice in our task force work over the last 3 years, and particularly over the last year and a half.